if we go into the menu and we quite simply click on vehicle and we quite simply click on settings, we can see in these vehicle settings, and we scroll up and down, you've got instrument cluster. And so if we go to instrument cluster, you can turn off the speed alert, speed warning here. So if I turn it on and we have a look in the menus, I can show you it is there under driving data. There we go, warning at 20. Very easy to activate. Switch it off here and it's gone. So it's not in your menus anymore. And that is an absolute win. So if you've still got your stock head unit, which I think every single vehicle I've seen so far does, and with my box taking it into Android Auto and joint connectivity, you arguably have never got a reason to change that. But fantastic. And the fact that it's in our instrument cluster easy selection here. Hello, another sunny day, and we've got a T6.1 install today. So I think we're coming up to our 10th T6.1 install at the time of making this video, so I'm sure there's many more by now if you've been tempted into the fold. But I just thought I'd take you through a kind of a start to finish quick install and help you out with the clips and tricky bits that we've got. So first of all, you're going to want to just drop your steering wheel, bring it all the way back, bring it all the way down, and then you're going to release your gator trim onto the top of your steering column. Now if you just look at these clips, I'll give you a sneak preview. Normally everything goes up, say on a T6, normally everything goes up. On a T6.1, the top line does go up, but you're going to want to first unclip the sides because they clip in. So you want to just get a nice flat trim tool or one of these slim ones that comes with the kit, and you just got to get up that side and you just got to pop those out, both sides, pop that up, and then that's free. Next, you're going to want to take off just this perimeter trim. They've treated us with the 6.1 because previously we've had to take out stuff either side, vents, surrounds with vents, so that we can release this center. But thankfully, this one just comes off nicely by itself. They let go with a real bang. They're quite strong, fast clips in the 6.1. And the best place I've found to start is just to get under this corner here. You might want to use a slimmer tool just to get started, but generally you can just pick it, you can just get up there, and then as soon as you can, get a nice wide tool in there, up that side, and you'll pop it, and you want to work the sides. So that's where your main clips are, up this side here, and then on this left hand side, again, you want to start in the bottom corner. If you can, work it by hand, but not ever flexing it too much. Work along, work across. You can sometimes get started enough on this side to get a clip in and just get your pry. But you want to try and stay fairly central. It's a very strong bit of plastic, quite substantial, and if you look behind it you'll see where the actual clips are, so you sort of rock everything out neatly. The clips that we've got back here, they are actually the same as the T6.1, they just seem to be a lot faster, a lot firmer. I think what I'm describing is the fact that a 6.1 has generally not been taken apart before, so you might be first on the scene. But you can see there's a bunch of clips here. These are the ones that really hold the most down the side. 1, 2, 3, 4. Same on the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then these top 3 should let go sort of with that fairly easily. Next, you've got your 2 T20 screws. The kit is supplied with a small blue screwdriver which will whip those out fairly easily. I personally like to use my sort of Makita Impact extension bit because it doesn't twist or rotate on anything, it's internal. Get those 2 screws out. I advise the use of magnets or magnetic tips if you've got them, or just you've actually got really nice space in here to get your hand in and just grip them. If you drop them down here, generally okay, but they can sometimes bounce, and on the 6.1 there's actually a trim that goes all the way down into the footwell and then into the insulated kind of floor as well, so you don't want to lose them down there, or you're going to need to borrow and beg screws from elsewhere or get some replacements, because that's not what you want to do. Right, so the next step after this, and I will just pause for a moment because I was thinking I might just get a trim tool behind here and just get a rock on it, but I just don't think there's enough space, and also it's probably not a fair example if you don't get a trim tool like this in the kit. But basically what we've got no clips at the bottom, although it looks like it should have, and it feels like you could rock it back. Actually, having said that, this one does appear to have the bottom clips in. Almost all the 6.1s I've come across so far, with the same dial configuration as well, haven't utilised their bottom clips. They've only utilised the top clips, and so it feels like the whole thing rocks, and then there's a little guide at the bottom here, and it feels like the whole thing rocks. I would advise against doing that, just because the top clips are quite flexible, and they break. They break quite easily, so any of that rocking motion forward and backward like that is going to cause them to go. So it really is just going to be a grab, toughen up, wear gloves, because it's going to be a hand pincher, and I'd say just kind of put your shoulder into it. If you try and pull the whole thing square, you're pulling 4 clips square on, you're gonna struggle. I think it's the best idea is to release 2 on one side, and then I think as that comes, you're going to get the leverage on the 2 left-hand clips, which are going to come out much easier. When you pull, you need to pull carefully and not too hard, not too fast, because these top clips here, which are not essential, they're actually just guides for the top. You can't see where I'm pointing, but they're just guides for the rubber fits that go onto the tops of these, and they're, you know, arguably with this many clips, things don't really need to be guided in and be absolutely perfect. But yeah, on the new unit, you know, you've got the same fitting. You don't want to damage this old one here. But if you pull it hard, you're going to be potentially hitting that lip at the top of there as it comes. So let me have a go. So this is going to be quite a bang. But I'm going to start on one side, just try and get a good grip behind it. You could actually, yeah, there we go. So that's the right hand side gone, and that, as that came, I've let the whole thing trap my hand at the top here, and that's, you know, protecting the unit, and thankfully didn't hurt me very much this time. But the right hand's out and it's brought the left with it, so that's all 4 clips done. But if you were trying to pull that square, yeah, it's and you might be tempted to just rock it, because seldom are these bottom clips actually in. They're arguably they're redundant, because you've got these bottom screws here securing it, and it only really needs to pivot on these top ones. But I think you've just got to be kind of careful and mindful of how these things come out. So yeah, that's it really. But just be careful if the clips do break off. Just make sure you check the metal clips that are in there, and if there are any clips left in there, a pair of long nose pliers and just pluck them out, because if you don't spot that when you fit your new unit, you're going to find that the new clips on the back of the printed unit, you might not have noticed, but they're not pushing back into the clips because you've got a bit left broken in there. If they do break off on the way out, depending on how you've brought it out, it may just be unavoidable, because you can't get back there, and you can't break the seal on it any other way. But yeah, that's what I say. So yeah, join me in a moment and I will be transferring the boards over. So I'm going to do this as a continuous video, and I'll stitch them together. I'll try and keep it under an hour. And I'll see you again in a moment. Okay, so just before we release this unit here, which has been released previously and has resulted in a broken clip, it was pulled right hand side first, very carefully, with the hand gripped around the top, grip, and as it came, it's released the left hand side too. But they're very thin mounts on these top clips, and I've tried several methods. I've tried to get behind it, get any kind of pry tool I can right into that corner, just to release it, you know, in a dignified way rather than be pulling and trying not to trap hands and things. But what I would say is the gription, the stiction on those things is so strong. I think the last fitting I did, several of them had been broken off by a ghost fitter before me, so there was little I could do. But I've just done this one, and it's hit and miss as to whether or not they break, or if someone's already been in there, or if you're the first one releasing it. So what I would recommend as a mitigation for losing those top clips, because I'll show you in a second just how I would say fairly weak the supports are for it, bearing in mind how much it holds. This is WD-40 Specialist Contact Cleaner, other brands available. You could be spraying anything in there really, but this is for me, this is it's a non-conductive, it penetrates, it leaves no residue. It's actually for cleaning contacts, plastics, rubber. You know, it's perfect for this. So it's going to evaporate, it's going to disappear, and you've got the extension. So it's right off that corner, and it's about like 5 millimeters in. If you feel behind there, you can actually feel the back of the clip. But it's very difficult to say that you could release that clip any other way, and I'll show you why in a second. But if you just bend that straw around that corner and just give it you can feel the back of the clip. It's actually the metal bit where it clips through the plastic. And if you just get onto that and just give this a quick spray on each corner. I'll just demonstrate on this one because you've got a good view of it. And if I'm able to zoom in, I'll just perhaps leave it like that. So when I've already undone this, and clips have let go and stayed in there on the top. You can see here, this is where the clip has broken away and come in. So it's just quite quickly giving that a little spray and making this come out, you know, tenfold easier. And I can get it out of my hand now actually. And that really does have to be the way. So I can get it out of my hand, not with these annoying gloves. Because when that clip's in there, it stops the, I'm going to use my long nose pliers, which are here. When that plastic is clipped into that clip, of course it pushes the clip out and locks it in tighter. So you just want to grab that, pull it out, and that's the bit that quite potentially lets go. Good news is you're never going to want to go back to this DigiDash, revert from this DigiDash, so you don't actually need those. They are old and done with. But yeah, these clips, they you know, you can pinch them and you can pull them out and you can reuse them and you can move them, but when they've got that bit pushed into the middle, you ain't going to be pinching that to get it out. So, you know, it's got to have a way of being made easier to get out of this clip, and this is it. You know, you see it's pinching and it's held in place by that. So getting that bit of lubricant in there, it could be anything. Okay, so it could be dip your finger in a cup of water and just tap it on the top of the back of this clip. You're just trying to introduce just a little bit of something between that plastic and this, which have dried out, possibly oxidized to each other a little bit, and you know, they've got really sticky. But then if we look at the other side of the better not put that anywhere else but there, if we look at the other side of the cluster, the manual cluster that we've removed, you can see where that's let go, and you can see the amount of plastic that it actually has in support of it. So if we just look along this top edge here, and I'll just show you where it was attached, it's there, and where it's released, look how thin the plastic is. It's along one edge of it, and then it's up that corner there, and that's why you find if the bottom clips are in, you can actually rotate it like that, and then you've got this plastic just getting flexed at the top until it breaks off. So if you want to break it off, I mean, just break it off. But you know, I'd rather keep everything in one piece, and we'll obviously be saving these bits just in case. And of course, we can usually thermoset melt stuff back in with a bit of black coat hanger. You can probably make this a downside stronger next time if you ever wanted to put it back. But yeah, just to let you know, that's how to do it. 5 minutes could save you breaking a couple of clips. So continuing on the bench, we've got the original cluster out here, and if you've seen any of my other videos, this is going to be pretty much no different at all. So the very first thing we want to do, just have a look, see what you've got here. You've got these 4 servo blocks which operate the needles on the other side. Fairly obvious when you look on the other side what they do. And they need to obviously be released. How are you going to release them? Well, you've got to get your needles off first. Try not to drop any of this apart. Clips wise, you've got a couple of guides. So you've got, this is just a guide, this is a guide, that's a guide in the middle. Looking at this, you've got 4 clips, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and you can see where they just lip over a little tab of circuit board. Not too clever, but there it is. That won't release until we've got the needles off the other side, because the needle spines need to obviously come out with the circuit board before we release these. So we do that. As I always say, if you're working on your circuit board and you've got these 2 circuit board holders designed for purpose, don't take it out and put it on your kitchen table and start bashing it about and risk anything. Just whatever side you're not working on, put into the case, and then vice versa, bring it back in. So I'll keep this like this because I'm going to be changing back and forth a little bit. What have I done with my trusty pry tool? Right, things I always have for every single install, and you should too. This is called Tessa tape. Well, someone called it Tessa tape for me, but it's wiring loom tape essentially. It's got a very low tack stiction, but it sticks to itself, and it what would I say, amalgamates. I think that's the way. Amalgamated rubber. You leave it for long enough, it starts to dissolve into itself. If you leave that when it sees air and sticks to itself, and you leave it like that, it gets stickier and stickier and stickier until, yeah, you're snipping it out with wire clippers. So it's really, really good stuff. But beside the point, I use it to wrap up the looms, the spare bits of loom, anything that you don't want to rattle, and it makes it look like it's meant to be in the vehicle, and there's a good reason why they use it. But I also like to wrap it around the elbows of the smallest trim tool that you get in the kit that I supply, just because it just softens that edge as you use it as your pivot fulcrum, if you want the specific term, to just lever up those ends. These can be a bit harder, these can a bit easier, but you can use the alternative ends. This is a nice lovely size. Just get it under that back edge. Don't be you've got quite a lot of wiggle on this because it's a long metal pin that comes through it, and then it's got a perspex piece that joins onto that, so you can just rock it forward until you can get that back under the edge there. Just support your needle with your fingers, then push it back onto it a little bit, and then at the same time just pinch the front, prise whilst you're lifting the needle side as well. So I'll give you a better view, and don't worry if the cap comes off first, because that just clips on. You can put it back on again afterwards to keep it safe when you pop it in the bag. But as you can see, as I've shown in other videos, that's just got a little sort of taper perspex tip that goes into the center there, and the needle jams up the where's the camera gone? Yeah, the needle jams into a hole up the center of that, and just grips as it goes through. But you are very, very likely to be the only person that's ever taken these off before, so yeah, expect it to be holding on and releasing with a bit of a reassuring bang. But look, we're not leaving any marks at all on this lovely matte background surface, and we're assuring that by just covering these up. But yeah, this is a perfect size tool for the job, I would say. Just rotate this around a little bit, try and get you a better view onto it. So we're just going to go under that back a little bit, rock it back onto it, pinch the front, do the whole thing in one motion, and then it's up. It doesn't feel great, but you're just releasing a metal pin that's gripping up the center of this perspex, and it's all pretty robust. In 120, 130 fittings to date, over the last 6 months, probably less, I have not had a single one of those get damaged or have anything wrong with it, nor the corresponding servo for the back face, and they're not positional either. So don't worry necessarily about where it is here. If you ever put this back again, and I have actually done a revert video before, but I don't know anybody that has gone full revert. I'll tell a lie, I've had one guy, my old mate John, but he's quite a special, unique quattro drivetrain, mega boost supercharged Audi into a T6, and I think he told me he was running 3 different body control modules to make everything work. So it is little wonder that our board that's programmed for any of those CAN buses, it was getting a bit confused with the error messages and things that it was getting. Right, so we've got the other side of the board now. We can see those 4 servos. We've just popped that off. So now we just want to release the whole plastic face on there. We've got these 4 clips, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to be slightly different on each board, but you know, logically they haven't changed their approach. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you can get them all at once, great, or just work your way around and just ease them one by one. Just let that come out carefully, and just remember to do what I nearly didn't, and that is, as I'm looking at this side, I know there's a ribbon cable that's going to try and hold on, so I'll just, before I fully release that, show you. On this side here, again, just grab your small trim tool, just get your dainty end on it, and just reach in there, and you just want to just very gently just encourage the start of that plastic ribbon grip, which literally does no more than goes in on a taper and squeezes one half of the ribbon cable onto the contacts. So just releasing it like that, it'll come off straight away. So I've released all my clips, and as that comes now, you'll see, just carefully check as it comes, that's just fallen straight out. We've left the LCD behind, and we've got our nice clean board where we just need to take the servos off. So I'll put this aside. I'll do that carefully. So as I follow my own rules, I'll just carefully drop that in there for safekeeping. I will transfer this back into the front of, just make sure you don't drop your LCD, because they actually sort of wibble around in there when they're not all clipped in. So just sort of keep that together, and just, what am I doing? Just locate that face down into there for now. Just keep it all safe. Move it aside. You won't need it, except for I like to put all of these needles, screws, servos, once they're off, into a little bag, and then I tend to just wrap the bag up very carefully, loosely, and drop it inside that Perspex face, just so that everything can never be separated again. So we'll just move these over here. Right, so we're going to release these servos off of here. So what have I just done? I've lied to you again. No, it's okay. Yeah, we've got the I've actually put this in here upside down. That's what I've confused myself with. So we're going to just use this half now. So I'm just going to flip it over, and this is the way round it would have been intended. And you know what, the best tool for the job, and I think pretty much everyone's got it, a SIM card removal tool is just perfect for this. And my magic tool key screwdriver, I've got an LED, I can find anything fast, and magnetized tips and blah 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 that I've not managed to get an affiliate link for yet, or bring into supply, which I probably should, because most people that see it and are struggling with old school kit tend to buy it whilst I'm there. Right, so we tap on the end of there. They're all magnetized into this case, so it just makes it, even with silly gloves, easy to grab. Save that, because I'm going to use it in a second. I don't even have to put that in my screwdriver. Right, so this is actually one of the bits in that kit is a SIM pin, so this is what this is. Each one of these servos has got a nearest to grab clip, and what we're just going to do is just going to push that very carefully. Better off doing it with it pinched in your fingers, because you've got more control. The closer you are to the end of your tool, the more control you've got. And you're just going to push that. You don't push it too hard, but the pin will go down, and then it's got another little click at the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4. I've seen some variations on this, but look, yeah, we've got a couple of extras here. they would release the speaker actually on the other side, which just has 2 contact plates, but that's what's holding it in to bring those contacts on. If you didn't want to hear a sound from your original board, which may include fake relay clicks for your indicators, so I wouldn't want to get rid of it personally, but it would also certainly include seatbelt warnings, key in the ignition warnings, lights left on warnings. I don't know, you could try life without if you wanted. I don't know, I don't advise it. A safety warning should be seen and heard, but that's all that speaker does, and it will operate without it. It won't be upset. I do take the speaker out on the virtual board almost every time now, because people want the media connect box, and just like today's customer with his 6.1, we're going for the full media connect box with a 5G SIM in it, and we're going to be routing connect cables through, and that will synchronize the dash with the the new DigiDash that we're working on now with the OEM CarPlay unit that the 6.1 typically comes with. Brings the whole thing to life really, and I have meticulously selected the hardware profiles that's got on it, and indeed unlocked some of the settings that's in the firmware that you'll need, such as, you know, HDMI audio disable, such as just being the absolute best at connecting to your phone quickly and every time. And anybody who's tried a wireless CarPlay or Android Auto Connect kit before, I mean, I've had an excellent experience personally with AA Wireless, but that was all it did. It had its own proprietary app on the phone, and it was very clever, and you could adjust DPIs and resolutions and all sorts of other stuff. But there are loads and loads of those products out on the market, and inherently the chips that obviously power those products. And there's a lot of crap ones. There's a lot out there that don't do the job, that seem initially quite good, but then the consistency just disappears. And I don't know, it's a Bluetooth relationship first, and then it has to be a tenacious Bluetooth relationship, as in it tries and tries, and then it negotiates a direct Wi-Fi. So I can't ramble on too much about that, but that box is the only one I would personally use, and it's just because of its speed, its consistency. It's got double the storage of others, 8 gig of RAM, which is loads for a little operating system that you're only going to use for your media play. It might not have the latest chipset in terms of processors, but I've seen the latest chipset falter with its codec streaming and sort of start staggering, even though it's supposed to be a faster clock speed. So new isn't always better. Right. Tried and tested, and firmware is where it's at. So this is all stripped down now. You can see both sides. That's the speaker. That speaker controls all of your audible engine light signals, all of your I believe the indicator clicks come through it. I can't imagine they are faking that in every way, and there aren't any true relay clicks anymore. So yeah, that's ready to go. So if I'm going to keep it safe, I could pop it back in there, but I'm already baked in true Blue Peter style. So I'm going to take these 4 servos, I'm going to move them over. They'll all be going in a bag. Let's just do the bag. Okay, so we're back, and here's one I baked earlier. This is the DigiDash. Essentially, all I've done is unscrew all the silver screws out the back of it. In this particular iteration, there are some sections cut away. Please don't worry about that. You are literally just allowing airflow through. You're going to put this original board in here. So these are quite early boards, so I'm making these cuts myself. But I've made these cuts myself on the first 10 units that came to the UK, and then I've sent these the diagrams of the cuts over to the factory, and they are now pre-cutting those on the current manufactured roll, and they won't be required on later editions because they'll have gone through a full circuit board redesign. So the way that they're mounting these ones, and if you see my other videos, you might be confused because you're thinking, I did have one customer go, I'm not going to be able to get that in there, Ant, because the speaker is hitting the board on the other side. They've messed up Well, they haven't. They've flipped it, so they've moved it onto this side. But I feel they could have done a little bit more to just protect this ribbon cable here. I would like to see a slight design change actually. And I know they struggle with the length of these things and they can't make them too long because the impedance that's built over the length of ribbon cable would start to make inconsistencies within the screen based on how much power they can get out of our limited CAN bus, I suppose. But it mounts onto this side. It's got three good screw points. It's got one there. It would have 4, but the ribbon cable currently takes a diagonal through it, and this is where I have a little bit of a design improvement suggestion for them, but you know, I found a way around it. I don't like these sharp edges here on the cable crossover, so what I do is I go back to my trusty Tessa tape, loom tape, and I just run a quick strip down that board edge so it covers that whole region there. So it's going to go straight down that line. I move it over here, and there's a couple of little tweaks like that that just, you know, they just make it a little bit safer and a bit more secure. They're quite sharp edges on the board there. You really don't want the ribbon cable to be touched up against that. Okay, so we've just wrapped around that edge top to bottom. Just double check that you're not covering any diodes or LEDs, surface mount componentry. You know, everything can get warm and you don't really want to cover anything. That's actually your redundant trip reset button that doesn't feature in this new design because it's virtually on board. So it looks like they've changed the washer design. Exciting for me, not for you. So we flip that over, and obviously I've taped that edge, so I'm clear where that needs to be. Yep, not yet. So that edge there, protecting the ribbon. You just want to make sure that you're, before you screw it in the wrong way around, make sure that your original loom connection is going to go poking through the back of there, and just have a good look at it. So we've got 3 good screw mounting points. Again, as you're doing this yourself or watching me do it and thinking that's what's going on inside the unit that I hadn't fitted for me, if you ever do come to disconnect this or change some wiring or put a new HDMI loop in or whatever it is you want to do, just be mindful of the fact that this is where you're plugging into. Know how that plug works with the lever pulling back and everything else. If it feels like it's really sticking and you can feel that you might be bending or flexing that board in the background, you know, it's not in its OEM anymore. It's not got all these supports all over it. It's got a screw here, it's got a screw here, and it's got a screw here. So you don't really want to flex the end of that board very much. So when I put that plug in, I'm just very careful to make sure that I'm being sympathetic to the circuit board behind it. Actually, I've just put that tape, after telling you not to cover anything, you've just split that a little bit more evenly. I've actually got some narrower tape, but I quite like this one for this. I just don't want to cover that that screw hole there because it's a mounting point, but it's away from this anyway. Okay, so they've given us some little plastic washers. This is already mounting onto plastic turrets, so don't worry about that side. But on this side, you do get 4 little washers or spares. It depends what sort of washers you got, just in case you get the other type. These are the old ones. Everybody sort of does them slightly differently. I always think put less onto the face of the circuit board. Okay, so you've got a narrow one there and you've got a spreader there. Yes, you could spread it, but sometimes those edges get a bit close to the edges of the board when you're clipping the housing back on. So just think, which way around do I want to do it? Which way works best? And I'm just going to feed these in now. They can be a bit stiff sometimes because they've never been threaded before. So just give it a little wiggle. Make sure you're centered on it. Make sure you square to it. So I just only need to turn it. Keep an eye on your others, because I know I've got one down here. I've got one over here, bottom 2 on the right. Just make sure they stay in position, and then just whilst I'm just moving the board by hand, I'm just going to hand tighten that because I know it's stiff and I don't want to overdo it. I just want to take the, there we go, it's just tightening up now. I just want to take the movement out of the board. It just keeps going. There we go. So that's nipped it up. So that's the board held, and make sure that you've still got good access to your other 2. Okay, so I'll run those in quickly. I'll just torque this up so it's got a bit more juice. Level 5. These are a nicer size washer actually. It's probably why they've reduced them, is because the larger pan washers could actually stick out a bit, and if you didn't slide them in, they could get trapped on the back housing. But yeah, this hasn't really got the gumption, but I know that it locks itself pretty well when I'm not. And actually, if I leave it forward, I can use it as a ratchet driver. There we go. A little bit more. Okay, that's in. So kept the speaker on there. You can see here on this side, I have disconnected the speaker already. I like to do a little bit of prep on these things if I can. This is the 3rd one I've done this week, so we've got some nice routes through the dash as well for you with the HDMI cable that I'll be doing in a second. So that's all together now. That is done, and essentially what that's done is we've got the new board here. This is the virtual board. This is a Linux operating system computer now installed in your van, so you are definitely modernizing it. It's got a small aerial taped off over here. That's for the Wi-Fi connect, and screen mirror for direct Wi-Fi. Bluetooth, I believe, is just onboard chip, but it doesn't need an aerial that we see. There's 3 little connectors on the top of the board here, like with all our other boards. 1, 2, 3. We don't use those 2. If you can find out what they do and get me into the unit and create me a back-end programming system, I'm all ears. I'll do you a free fitting if you can do it. But I'll tell you, the one on the left we use for an RFID connect, and I have probably got one handy if you want to see it. I don't know of a T6.1 that doesn't have a multifunction steering wheel. That isn't to say they haven't done a cruel specification, a cruel specification. Can't just make words up, Ant. A bog standard basic for the vans that has nothing at all. Here it is. It's a bag in a bag in a bag. But this is the also available on my site. This is an RFID handheld remote control. I say handheld. It's got a nice contour. It actually mounts quite nicely to the underside of either of your indicator stalks. Comes with a nice VHP stroke fake 3M sticky pad that you can put on the back of it, and then it has this little RFID chip which plugs conveniently into that top left. So if you don't have multifunction display, or you don't want to be affecting your multifunction display settings with lots of button presses for all your configuration, and you barely press any buttons when you're using it, when it's standard, you could install one of these. You could use it for all of your setup and configuration, and then you could just put it in your glove box. Options, 30 quid. I've requested a whole bunch more of these. Not relevant for you guys at all, because the 6.1 comes with its onboard built-in CarPlay and everything else attached. But in the olden days, when I was 6 months ago, we had a mirror board that was mounted just here. Oh, what a surprise, you can still see the mounting points. And a HDMI point out of the back with a sticker over it. Woohoo! Now used for quality control. But that goes in there, and there's a little ribbon connect here, which, oh, surprise, surprise, we've still got a ribbon cable connector on this board. So you see, things haven't changed very much. It's all in the software. This is the same board as we get in the T6 and the control and everything else. That mounts there and can go through there. So there's probably argument to say that it would work if I wired that into there and I could have a dual HDMI output input. Oh, it would be confusing though. No, that's probably been deadened because I happen to know that the HDMI input that's on board, which is there, is right next to it, and that this won't be wired. And I know that because it's in the same position on the menu, so it's been software coded out. Done. Right, so there's a hole on the back of here. Where was I? This is your original board with your original port coming out the back. We've got another port on the back here, which is the virtual side. The very clever harness kit, cluster kit, harness wiring loom. Make sure you're well clear of that, and they've designed this back case so you can just slot that in, just left to right, make sure it's perfect, and then just rock it forward. You've no chance of trapping any ribbon cables in there, and I can see it's still got a nice curve on it. All four screw points have aligned straight away nicely all the way back. There's our plug. You could actually support your board on the edge there as you plug that in. Tony's top tips. So we're just going to run those 4 screws back in. I'm going to take this unit back across. We're going to plug in the harness, and the harness is in the box. I'm going to run the loom tape round the 2 USB cables. I normally tape back slightly the one that we don't use. I leave the upgrade one sticking out, and it just means that if I have to advise anybody on the phone or post them a new firmware USB that just plugs in and runs automatically, or they want to do it, download it from my site where I'll keep the latest versions, and if there's any future enhancements. I say enhancements because I don't really think of them as bug fixes, because, you know, I would not sell something that wasn't ready to run and couldn't perform all of its tasks adequately. But there's room for improvement, and it's the UK market, and the things that we find aren't specific, you know, to everybody. So yeah, there will be future firmware iterations. You can just choose whether to run them or not. You have the fortunate position that you can just give me a message and say, is it worth it? What does it do? Yes, it means you can change the color of your wheels, or I don't know, whatever it is, or get a logo on the startup and make it feel and look even cooler. So it's tweaks and things like that that you'll obviously be able to benefit from. Right, so I'm going to put this together. I'll meet you in the van. Okay, so we're back in the vehicle. We've got our board and everything converted, ready to go, but I'm just going to interrupt play to install the HDMI cable, because we are going to be popping in, and if you just look up the top here, we've got our smart play box, which is going to connect the DigiDash to the media head unit, which is a Android Auto head unit, CarPlay head unit in this case, standard fit 6.1. We've got our lovely remote control ready as well, because we're going to be doing some programming. And if you tune in for my video that I'll pop up later, I'm going to do kind of like an intro setup for that box as well, because we've got some really nice tweaks, hints and tips to get you started and make it look better than anybody else's, unless they've watched that video, which might be on YouTube. But I'm here with my very helpful customer. You'll notice we've got a real camera pan, tilt, zoom skill going on in the background here. He's going to be in the background, and when we're doing the setup, if he's got any questions, he's going to ask them, because they might well be questions you want answers to as well, because I take for granted sometimes that I've been living and breathing this for a bit too long to know where the general knowledge stops, and I know it's very new to a lot of people. So cool tools I've got for today. I've got an angled HDMI with an adapter onto the end of it. The 6.1 is actually pretty tight with the currently supplied HDMI that comes with my kit as standard. So I've just done a little quick vernier depth check, and I can save myself a princely 4.5mm in depth on the HDMI by using this right angle connector, flat right angle connector, with a bit of fiber tape. Fiber tape is extremely strong. If you can pull that apart, then don't, because I want to keep it nice, but it's very hard, and it supports it really, really well. So that's going to be going into the back of the unit. I've got a nice 2 meter long cable, so it doesn't really matter which direction it gets sent. But if we look back here at the plastics, what we actually get, and I've done a little bit of sort of a tape. I've put some tape on this before, and I've found out exactly where the strike point is. And if you are getting, sorry,
just do a cut.
Yeah, I can do that. So what we get is we're using this, basically this right angle connector with this 6.1, and I can share additional useful things. If somebody's going to be putting this into the back of their 6.1, you know, let me know, or we'll probably respec the cables at some point so that it covers everybody. But yeah, there's, to save me having to make any sort of a trim here just for the HDMI cable to get a couple of extra millimeters back, it seems a shame. So I think we're going to get around that today, which is great. The only other place where I know we're going to have to make a cut, and we definitely won't avoid, and this is another European fallout. So look how close that cut is on that corner as a standard. That's a European. Okay, now that would have been on the other side of the vehicle, in a European car. The cutout would be basically mirrored as it flips over. Because if you mirror image this on the other side of the car, it's over here. Okay, it just is, because they don't want to remold things for other halves. They just use their models, flip it around. And it doesn't matter, because they design their clusters to work in either way around. But our clusters are better designed for the European market and the left-hand drive. So we're not the mass market, unfortunately. And what that means is that we just need to sort of mirror that a little bit across here. And what I do, I tend to just look at that profile over there. I just take a little line off this side up here, and where that cut in there comes down that side, I just follow that straight down, and I just do a little diagonal here. But just please follow this advice. Unclip cables, anything that's in the way. Sorry, these cables are pretty grabby onto this plastic. There's a little tab on the back that grips it, so just bend it until it pops off. Move that out of the way. It doesn't need to be clipped there. It's nice that it is, but we can clip it to something else. We can move it out of the way. Just make sure your cables are all nice and clear. Reach around the back, have a good feel. There's nothing there. All the way around that side, there's nothing there. You might find, and I have found, that they tend to use this bottom, I'm drifting off over there. They use this bottom, right in the bottom of there. You can sometimes feel, yeah, a little bit of loom that's going along that bottom line. So just be mindful that's there. This, bring it all the way over here. Get it well out of the way. You can unclip this module. There's 2 little push down clips on that side, very easy to do. And when you press on those, you can lift that left hand side of the box with one hand, and you can move that away as well. So if you want to just buy yourself some space, just bring that over here, just be gentle with it. And yeah, I'm going to be making a very, very careful cut down there. If you get a Stanley knife, you could be wiggling, not my favourite. If you get a tiling tool nibbler type thing and go down there, you could be snipping it. It's just a little bit awkward, and I personally much prefer to have the control to be able to just feather in, plunge cut with my multi-tool. That's how I do it. But you could easily come in with a Dremel and just do a cut straight down there, and then this last bit, if you didn't want to cut this way, you could just nibble it up with a pair of wire clippers or something like that. Equally, wire clippers would do it. You'll find a way, but it's not difficult. Or a jab saw. If you've got a metal jab saw, they're pretty unobtrusive and very easy to use. So I will trim that little bit out. I think we're going to get away with not having anything for the HDMI here. I don't like making a cut in the middle of anything, and it's right onto a structural aluminium kind of mounting spot there for this big section here, but I can assure you, even after these cuts, everything is absolutely solid. So I'm just going to hand this camera off to the side and move on to the next bit, which is where I'm going to use I love this tool. It wasn't particularly expensive, but I think it's the only one I could find on the market that does everything I wanted it to, and that is to have a magnetic end of a grabber with a built-in torch, and I don't know, you won't see this, but it sort of projects a crosshair. So when you're looking into a dark space, you can see this sort of crosshair appear on the thing you want to grab, and you can reach in and grab it. It's a little bit spooky, but the nicest way I found of doing this, and I'm gonna just kind of try and show you this the best way I can in real time, just how easy it can be to route this cable. So we've got the location of the USB-Cs 1 and 2. I believe they're both CarPlay, Android Auto compatible. So we just slide our trim tool into that front edge and just get onto this corner, just make a start, come along, 1, 2, 3, and that's the front edges clipped. And once you've got that, you can probably just get your fingers under that side and use your finger as a pivot to rock the back and get that back corner. Same over here, just give it a pivot and you'll get those clips out. They're all pretty nice and easy once you've got a start. Once you've got a start on that front edge. We're having a gimbal fight.
Let's just start again.
Yeah.
Just do a cut.
So we're gonna just pop this drinks holder down to the left of the gear lever up here, and this is where the two factory USB-Cs are, which do the CarPlay cable connect. Quite easy to remove actually compared to others around the vehicle. So if we just slide along there, when you get to this corner, it'll pop quite quickly, and then you can come back again and just pop. That's the front edge done. You can pretty much do the rest by hand, but you get over to this corner here, and once you've got that front edge up, you can just put your finger under that back edge and just pivot. Then the back clips will just come out with it. It's all pretty robust, this stuff, but just be mindful that these cables here, they are USBs. You do need to be a little bit careful, a bit gentle, just, I would personally, I like to just unclip them, put them safely out of the way. And not least because I'm going to be making a little trim to this once I've discussed it with the customer. So we're going to be located in this area, but there's two options. You can either have the HDMI come up and out from this route, and if you want to disconnect the 12 volt, by the way, it's the connectors in here. So we'll just press that and unclip that as well. So that's 1, 2, 3. Just remember what you've unclipped. Put it somewhere where it's going to be safe. You could open the glove box and just slide it around that side if it's just going to hold it a bit better, as you wish. So yeah, on this unit here, we've got the USBs here. The spot where I normally make a little hole, a little bit of a U profile on it. It's tucked nicely off to that right hand side there, and you can see there's a guidance clip here which goes into that gap there. I avoid that, and I tend to just put a tiny little U profile just above that clip there, and I would do that using my little stepper drill, where I'd come in from above, and I'll show you in a little moment how I do that, and I'll just discuss with the customer. Does he want the HDMI to come up through here and go into the box and have the box sat in here, or does he think he'll keep the media play box, which, to just give you a sense of scale, it isn't huge, and when it's outside of its storage, it can go in there quite nicely. If we had more angled sort of connectors, which is very hard to get hold of an angled HDMI full size to HDMI mini, but if we could get both, it would probably sit there quite nicely on a Velcro pad or something like that. But future aspirations, this will have in this case a rather neat little USB mini braided cable coming through into that side. It would be lovely if it could be angled, but it's not. So yeah, it could be mounted there. It could be sat in the cup holder. It could be mounted underneath. These are all things to just sort of think about in the future. What would you like out of it? We could have the USB-C sort of. If they were both angled, I think it would be quite a neat, nice solution. But yeah, we'll have a look. Maybe my sticker needs to be the other way up and an angled HDMI adapter into there. A mini to mini, right angle, left to right. But everyone's use case is going to be different. And then we've got the USB to take in, C to C. C to C. This one has the Super Mega Unlimited Round the World SIM in it. Talk to me if you want more detail, if you want that. I can take you through it. But yeah, this is going to be really, really cool. And tune into my next video after I've put all this back together, and you can see how my initial setup goes with that and how it's performing, what it's capable of. So it's really cool. Right, okay, we'll move over to pulling the cable through now. So the route that I like to take is through this opening. I'll see if I can give you a better view, but essentially using this cool blue wiggly pokey tool, I can easily get my whole arm in there, and then using this wiggly blue clear end, I will turn on my torch, I'll reach in there and I will curve it slightly, and I'll just poke it up all the way up behind the very quiet part of the dash, because you imagine there's gearbox, transmission, pedal box, not much down there. Stay low, and I'm going to poke it through into the steering column. So if I'll just see if I can poke it through in real time now, and then I'll go and show you the other end of it. So I'm just going to pop on my torch, which I rarely remember to turn off. I'll put a little bit of an arc into this cable, and I'm going to reach in. And if I hit the tiniest bit of resistance, I'm not going to bother. So I'll just come back again. I'm just trying to find myself a nice, easy, clear route through. And I should quite easily, there we go, I can see it straight away. So I'll reach in and I've got it. So I'm holding the other end of it now. And it couldn't, well, I could bring it to the other end, but basically I'm under the steering column. So I just need to grab something. Well, the original cable for the DigiDash is here, so I'll just clip it onto that for now, and I'll just drop that down. I know exactly where it is. I can grab it. So when I'm ready to feed my HDMI cable through, I can just grab it back onto that end and just pull it through. But the route I'm going to take beyond that, and just don't send the wrong end. I've done that before. Here's the HDMI mini. It comes with a little cable protector on the end of it, so I will put that back on just because it makes sense. The last thing you want to damage is the tip of that. If you're sending this through the cable, sometimes what a good option is, I'm a good advert for this test tape, but if you put a bit of test tape on the end of there and just leave a little bit of bunch, you can use that to grab with your picker tool thingy grabber. Loads of people are going to have these other sorts of these. Some of them aren't bendy and malleable like this one is. Some of them are quite sort of rigid and straight, and they're a bit more tricky. But with this one, you can sort of change the shape of it and poke it through. It's not very long, but it makes up for it. It's magnetic. It's actually being magnetic. I have used it before just to grab this tip and just very carefully feed it back through whilst it's just magnetized to the tip, and yeah, you can get it through quite quickly, quite easily. You just got to, yeah, just feel for it really. So in terms of a route to this point, we've just got to find a nice easy route down here. We want to go from behind the dash. You can see that straight away, look. Well, I can, but maybe you can't. So with one hand behind my back, that you can see that poking out there into that gap quite simply. So I'm just going to try and make it stay there for a second with one hand, whilst I use the same hand to reach in and grab it. There we go. Ay, ay, ay. So even if you've only got one hand, you can still do this. He said. Right, Okay, so here it is. I've got the end. I might stick that on the magnet and pull it through, but I'm not going to be able to do that and video. So I'm going to do that. I'm just going to pull it through to the other end. You can do it any way you want. You can either grab it, you can grab it by the cable. I suggest minimizing the profile as it goes back through so it doesn't catch on things. So I like to just put a bit of tape from one side to the other, leave a little slack loop, and then I grab that with my grabber, and I just know, because, you know, a stitch in time saves 9, or so they say, and it's very true. So I'm going to pull that back through. This will be at the other end. I've got 2 meters of cable here. You can get away with 1.2. The angled piece that it comes with always makes this distance. If you've got nothing else and you don't want to buy adapters and you're like, Ant, you've sent me the wrong thing and I've got a 6.1 and I want to pull it through this way, I haven't got one right now, but if you sand or file the back face, or even Dremel 2 or 3 millimeters off the back face of the original, it's going to be just enough. And you'll know, because when you put the unit back in, you can feel just over that top edge, and if that gap isn't 0 by feel between the back face of your Digidash and where that clip's gone in, you know that, that there's something stopping it. And there's only 2 things. It could be the HDMI that's not got its 3mm back, or it could be that trim's not been done, because the right hand plug on the back of the unit is happier going into this space, which is only Europeans. So I'm going to do a trim down there, across there, and I'm going to pull that cable through, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so we are back in the vehicle. I have, let me see if I can show you actually. We've just done a nice little route through with this cable. So we've pulled the HDMI down and through, as you know from a second ago, and just for this one we've decided to just velcro back mount the box into there, and then we've got the HDMI coming through a circular cutout in the bottom, because the customer would like to easily remove it, but doesn't really care much for using this as a cup holder. So yeah, it's just going to be a short USB C to C patch cable in there, preferably one with 2 right angle ends would be nice, but we'll see. And then yeah, we can just slide that back in and out of the way, and it's going to have, you know, good reception for the GPS, because remember, these units aren't nav units as stock either. They're purely Connect units in this case. So we have a feature in the box actually where we can select whether to use onboard GPS or vehicle GPS, but obviously we'll be sticking to the box. So yeah, dropping the box down there doesn't really work in this use case, not perfectly. Right, so I've just moved things out of the way back here, tried to get you a bit of visibility. Hopefully it's not just going to be a useless video where you can't see a thing, but I did show you where I want to do those cuts, so I'll just see if I can just loosen this off and swoop you in. Perhaps the lighting will improve slightly, but then you're going to have a great big bloomin' tool in the way in a second anyway, and a Makita multi-tool as well. Right, let's get this bad boy in. Let's trim ourselves a little loin down here. So all I'm going to do off that little U shape there, I'm going to just do follow the right hand side of that U-shaped line. I'm just going to come follow that profile down, ding 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 ding, until I think I've got a nice intersect with a diagonal here, and then I will just join it up. So quite simply, I've checked thoroughly. Wow, T6.1s enable the horn during key ignition back. Yeah, that's all I'll say. My horn doesn't work when the key's back. Right, I'm gonna just trim down there, easy peasy. Okay. That's my one. That's my two. Power down. I don't know why people panic about this bit. You've just got to not be a moron. If you did cut through your cables, then, you know, you might be a moron. But you just got to be careful. Just watch your blade. You know, don't cut with something that you just can't cut with. But essentially that's it. We're just taking that piece out of there. It served it did serve a purpose. I won't say it didn't serve a purpose, but it was for this, you know, it was for this loom to just cable clip to, and it was in the way. So now we can get this loom to cable clip to something else if we really want to. I could move it down here, I suppose. But I'd rather it was right out of the way, because I have cut this bit because it was in the way. So I'll just bring this over. So to be sure, I'll clip everything back into place. So we just lock that in, push that down, click the VWAG. Don't know what it does, but I bet you need it. So leave it plugged in. Okay, so get these cables off and in place. That's the HDMI. We're not going to need a load of slack in our way. We don't want anything that could get trapped unnecessarily. So I'm just going to send that. Sheesh! Who keeps pressing that horn? Not very considerate, is it? Right. Then we've got our harness, freshly wrapped by my helpful assistant, and we're just going to. So I like to wrap I say that when I haven't actually done it, but we spiral down the USBs. I do normally do it for myself, but we're just killing some time. So the upgrade port we keep in play, the AirPlay port we just don't use. So I'm just winding that back, and just makes it easier to find, easier to grab, and stops you screwing up when you're trying to plug in a USB and it's dark and you're tired and you want it to work, and I've sent you a USB. There we go. Right, so there's our input. I say what we're going to do with that. Make sure you haven't made it too bulky, he said, and just feed that down. I find there's a slightly wider gap just on this left hand side, I should say. And it just, if you just poke it down there, give it a wiggle, and it will come out in view. Just in the underside here, you can easily, I don't know if you can see that from the camera angle, but down here where you can see a thing moving, that is where it pops out. I'm just going to leave that dangling below the column. As much slack as possible down there, it's fine. We'll coil it up afterwards out of the way. Right, so you can't really get these plugs wrong, because you've got two like this. Guess what? This one's a fake and this one's the real. But this one's female and this one's male. If you can call them that, then yes, you can. So we plug those in there, and just make sure that your clip is all the way forward. Gosh, how many times do I say this? Inspect, have a look. You'll only go one way. Happens to be the opposite way to which I first tried. So you're going to push as a rule, this lever should always be as far away from this cable before you push it in. And you should push this in until the lever starts to move. And as it gets stiff, just finish it with the last bit of clip. Do not use that clip lever thing to pull it in with. Okay, to a degree you can finish it just a tiny bit with that if you need to, but if it's really stiff, you're better off just, I don't know, just putting a little bit of slip on there. Anything you can get your hands on. You might even have a bit of Lipsol or Vaseline in the car, van, or whatever, or a bit of hand cream, a little bit of dashboard shine. Anything will do. Just give it a little bit of a helping in if it's stiff, rather than forcing it and trying to pull that lever, because you'll only pay for it later, because you'll have a half done up clip with one tooth in the see, these got two teeth on them, they've both got to go in, and if they don't both lock in, you might only have one tooth in and you won't have a cable home. Right, so we've got these off to this side. We've got the USB, we've got the HDMI ready to go into the back for the video feed. 1, 2, 3. So we're going to bring in the DigiDash, and ever so mindful that we don't leave any markings on this front fascia panel. Bit of microfiber cloth goes a long way, but just make sure that wherever you place it, you're definitely not going near the screen and risking any of that stuff, because it's just treat it like a computer monitor and you've pretty much got it right. Okay, so I've just orientated these a little bit wrong, so I'm just going to pull back a little bit of my USB slack so I can get this blue one off to this side. I'm just going to release it a little bit because it's tapered in. There's a reinforcing bar back here, and it gets closer and closer to the dash, so that's why the left hand side's got a load of space. So just feed a bit back up. Obviously I'm going to need more than I thought. So right, well, the blue one is going to go on this side and it goes up. So if you can see, the blue one is going to go up. So just like I said, lever all the way away from the cable end as a rule. Push it in gently, feel the lever coming back, finish it with the lever, click, lovely. And then we're going to do exactly the same on this side with our same but fake, and this one goes down, so we're going to make sure the lever's all the way away from the clip end. And sorry, it's a little difficult to show you this, but I'll swing it around in a second when I just get it located. Right, so that's just all the way away, and I'm just going to just very gently, remember what I said about the board support? I'm actually putting one finger around this side, I'm just supporting the back of the board, and I'm just going to press those two together, and that's gone in nice, and then the lever's flicked back. I'm only putting a tiny bit of pressure on that, and then I'll pull that lever, click. When your vehicle won't start, which won't happen because you've followed these expert guides, it would be because of that one. It would be because of the second plug I've just put in, because that's going to your original board. If your vehicle can't see that original board, you have immobilized your vehicle. If your digital screen does not come on, but your vehicle does start, it's the other one. It's the one on the right, the blue one, the aftermarket plug. If you are somewhere in the middle and nothing works, the vehicle won't start, you haven't got a screen, blah, blah, blah. It could be two things, because we're going to run a brand new firmware into this in a moment, which fixes a lot of things. But it could also be that that female plug that you took in first, where you put the harness in, that's obviously making both connections, and it's possible that you've gone amiss on that. Right, now I'm reaching behind. If you've seen my other videos, you'll know we've got to make sure that everything's clear and out the way for these clips to go in. I can sort of feel that right hand clip is in. But, there's something, just a cable, yeah, it's this, just trapping. It could be the fact that I haven't plugged in the HDMI, because it was just sat there. So get the HDMI in, off to the end, off this way. Right, all being well. It's a good idea to do this with gloves, because when your fingers when your hand gets jammed into a slot, you just feel it. Some of these things sort of taper you in. Right, so cables up, out the way. Don't be too brutal with anything, just give it space. Manoeuvre it carefully. I'm just feeling back here to just see if there's something that's rocked over and getting in the way a little bit. So it feels like we're clear. That's fine. So we'll just run in the two T20s, which I'll just quickly retrieve. Just pop them onto my magnetic tip here, and then we're going to just feed those back in underneath. Just make sure you're going in nice and square, give it a wiggle, get it home, guide it in. That's it. I should be doing this with the hand tool really, it's that easy. There we go. Okay, just remember you're dealing with bits of plastic here, you don't need to screw it up mega tight, just need to nip it up. So I'm going to run in a firmware update quite quickly. So simply put, it's a USB 8, 16 or 32 gigabytes. There's a whole tutorial on my website. I can send you files, I share files. You could buy a USB stick with all this on, and into the upgrade port ye will go. I know that this one is at the moment the latest one. There might be a new one, but right now 15th of March. So if you look at the date stamp of this video upload, 15th of March, this firmware is only about 2 weeks old. Having said that, I just plugged in the logo update, which would do nothing until after. So I'm going to plug in the 15th of March, which you can get on my site, and you'll see a countdown start. Let's see if I can beat the firmware and get my clips back in. It's not a race. Right, so if you remember, we've got these little rubber hats. They go on the two spikes at the top of the final surround. We're just going to poke those back on there dry. But if you remember the earlier advert for contact cleaner, WD-40 specialist, useful install tool for many things. It'll evaporate off. I'm just going to spray a bit onto the outside edges of those rubbers. Thank you. And then move fairly quickly because it evaporates and it's a warm day. It might even have gone already. Let's see how awkward this is. You really should probably, I would suggest a bit of soapy water, to be honest, something that's just going to stick around for a bit longer. Oops, up the indicator on. Right, so we just give it a little wiggle, have a little feel for it. I am not a huge fan of these rubber things, and I may give up, but let's just see. Right, that just went, so I just went a little bit wiggle side to side, don't force it, and that is just all ready to just literally fall in. And then it's just a tiny little push around to get the last bit of the clips around. If you're at this stage and you're really pushing and you think, oh god, you know what, when I push I can see that moving, I can see that moving, look, this is all just falling into place. There is nothing blocking that behind there, there's nothing that's pushing back, and as a result this fascia trim is not putting any undue pressure on that screen. And believe me, you might not see it now, but when it comes to night time, if you're driving at night and you've pinched the corner of that screen, either by over tightening something or by pushing a trim back whilst you've got something trapped behind it, could be a loop of the cable, the fitting, anything really, it's just going to show up. It's going to show up as a dirty yellow bleed mark around the edge, and it'll be down to one of those things. So I'm just clipping the cigarette lighter in at the other end. We've got our swanky USB ready. We've got a nice short C to C cable. As always, thank you very much for staying with me, and I hope you found my tutorial useful and potentially enjoyable. I don't know. But if you did find it useful and you have the ability to like, subscribe or track down any of my review links that are available in the information section of this video, then please support by doing so. It really does tremendously help. Thanks a lot. Bye.